What's the scariest thing that happened in your dreams? It's been a while, but I occasionally experience sleep paralysis. Anyone who has ever had to deal with this knows that it's incredibly real feeling. It's horrific to say the least. The last episode was 2 or 3 years ago. At the time, I was married, so obviously I was sharing a bed with my now ex-husband. I still think my ex's house is haunted. I know that isn't rational, but there'd be times I'd lie awake feeling absolutely terrified because it would feel like something was there with me, watching. There were a couple of daytime incidents, but the night felt the worst. One night, I thought I had woken up. I could open my eyes but nothing else. That feeling was back. I used to wake my husband up, even though he never really believed me. He'd be nice about it, but he wasn't experiencing the feeling I would get. This particular night, I was laying on my side, and when I opened my eyes, I saw that he was turned towards me. His eyes were open and looking right at me. I wanted to say his name, but I couldn't get my body to obey, so I laid there waiting for him to say something first. Instead, his face contorted. His eyes and mouth became giant, black, gaping holes. I started screaming. To me, it was my ultimate fear. Like, whatever had been watching me had finally decided to make an appearance. My husband reacted immediately, shaking me and saying, it's okay, you're dreaming, wake up, you're dreaming. I hate sleep paralysis. I hate the realness of it. I wouldn't wish this on the worst person. I was 13 I think, currently 17, and the room's light was green. Similar to that of the rocking chair jumpscare video. I was laying in bed all alone, and suddenly anxiety struck me, like someone broke inside the house attempting to kill me. So all I did was walk out of the room and took a peek in the living room. My grandparents were just watching TV. Then behind me, a fast crawling creature with limbs bending the wrong way jumped on me. I woke up, but was filled with anxiety again. I cried because I woke up in front of our old house, in which I realized that it's still a dream. Again this crawling creature came again and grabbed me. Woke up again, trembling and shaking, seeing that the light's still green, indicating that I was still dreaming. I ran down the hallway and told my grandparents about the crawling creature, and they were just watching the TV. They weren't noticing me at all, so I did something different. Instead of closing my eyes during the dream, I went up to the second floor and jumped to my death. I woke up, for real, after that, but I was sweating, shaking, and heart was beating insanely fast. When was a kid I had this reoccurring dream where I would wake up at me dad's old apartment when I still lived with him and my mom and they were married. I leave my room and go to his office where I would find my mom cleaning some shelves. I was never able to see her face by that angle, just her back, so I get in the room to say good morning when suddenly I turn around and see my actual mom walking past me. Then when I look back at the woman cleaning the shelves, she is now facing me, has a demonic looking face and very deep voice, and starts walking towards me. Before my dream began, I was in the living room and I fell asleep on the couch. So then I had this dream that something grabbed me by the neck, dragged me and had me in midair in front of these sliding glass doors we had in our living room. I remember I was crying of the fear because I knew I'd seen its face. I guess I was making enough noise because my mom woke up, ran out of her room, and turned the lights on behind her before making it to the living room where I was hanging. Anyway, she runs in front of me and I can't remember what I said to her, but she responded with "I told you to not mess around with that" as she stood in front of me while I was midair. I cried more and slowly began to lose consciousness from being choked. Then I woke up and went to sleep in my room. I got possessed. That's right. You read correctly. It was absolutely terrifying. Now I believe that there could be something bad in my house. When it happened, I first felt my senses slowly disappear. My vision was first to go. The strange thing was, my vision faded to white instead of darkness. My body temperature proceeded to go down fast and my screams went down a drastic amount of octaves. My hearing, feeling, smell and taste all disappeared as well. That's how it felt. Watching an older man beat a woman to death in a cabin in the woods. Then, he chased me through the forest. After realizing I had witnessed his crime, After managing to somehow elude him, I was confronted by this thing floating in the trees, watching the entire ordeal unfold. Strangely enough, I never felt threatened by the ghost or whatever the hell it was. I recently wrote a short story inspired by the dream. I met death. Had a dream that death had disguised himself as my friends trying to hurt me. After an anxious chase of them coming after me and cornering me, they all disappeared as death decided to show himself to me. He brought me close to him and said, "I've changed my mind for right now, but remember that I can change it again at any time." He let me go in the dream, and then I woke right up. If there was any spiritual weight to that dream, it basically implied I was supposed to die that night. I usually shrug off nightmares because I'm not the type to get scared super easily, but I had a nightmare once that was so vivid that it still gives me chills even thinking about it today. I remember it started off as me with my whole family, mom, dad, brother, sister, in this house that was decorated kinda like our house, but I knew it wasn't. We sat on a round glass table, like we have at our house, and we were playing the card game BS, or some would call grapefruit. Then my dad got really paranoid and said, "There's people outside." We opened the door to the backyard, and, lo and behold, there were people running behind the bushes and hedges of our house. We were all looking outside of the door when I, uncontrollably, walked outside. My family didn't do anything, and soon enough I heard a man in the shrubs say, "Grab him." A guy in his early 20s rushed out, bear hugged me, and dragged me away from my family. But my family closed the door and left me. I struggled until I finally got free of him and dashed toward the door. I was able to make it inside, but my family were just talking away, as if I never got kidnapped. I woke up and was so frightened I started to cry. My nightmare after I went to the museum's body exhibit when I was in the 4th grade. I was strapped to a table being cut open while still awake by a scientist, being controlled by a disembodied brain. Woke up, fell back asleep, and then I had somehow escaped the ties, holding my insides together and in their place while trying to escape from the building. Woke up by slipping on the bunk bed steps and hitting my head on either the ground or a table. Sleepwalking is fun. In one dream I was a kid again, and me and my dad were out on a cruise on his motorcycle. I forget, but for some reason the bike slipped out and caused me and my dad to go flying off the bike at a decent speed. We both hit the ground at the same time, but my body landed on top of my dad's, so I got away basically fine besides road rash and such. This is when it got really scary. I got up after the crash and ran to my dad to see if he was alright. When I got to him there was blood dripping down his face, and he was making these awful gurgling/croaking sounds. I then noticed his neck was broken, and it looked like he was struggling to breathe. I started panicking, and I saw an elderly couple walking down the road in the distance, so I tried yelling to them for help, but every time I tried yelling nothing was coming out. It felt like I was screaming with those noise-cancelling headsets on, and caused my stress and anxiety to skyrocket. That old couple never turned around, and I kept trying to shout to them until I eventually woke up in what felt like an anxiety attack. I've had lots of creepy unexplainable dreams, but this one always stood out as the scariest because of how real it felt. It was one of those dreams where it took me like half the day to recuperate after and shake that feeling of dread. I don't even know where to begin. Nightmares are a nightly occurrence for me, and I've tried nearly everything to make them buzz off, but to no avail. There's one I remember every detail of, and I don't even know why I had it 3:14 AM. I'm in the kitchen of my grandparents' house on my phone in my nightgown. I'm waiting for someone to come home, and I hear the garage opening. Someone walks in, but I don't recognize them. Before I can react, he lunges at me, gets a hold of me, and slits my throat. It was the only dream I had where I watched myself die. It happened extremely fast, and was a relatively short dream from what I remember. Another I had that was also incredibly clear was I was walking through the woods with a woman I didn't know. She never acknowledged the fear I felt as someone repeatedly sang to me, "I know you." That's all the voice ever said. I felt I was being watched the entire time, and eventually I saw who was singing to me. It was a weird bipedal fuzzy creature with a dead skull face, about as big as a child, round, sloth-like hands. It had huge bulging eyes, The woman I was with still never acknowledged the creepy shit happening and continued having a casual conversation with me. I have so many more I could go over, but those two stick to me the most. There was an event during Easter holiday outside near a church. It was a sunny, beautiful day. Tents had been set up. Children were running around playing, hunting for Easter eggs. There must have been an entire congregation gathered, chatting, enjoying the weather, and having a cookout. I made eye contact with a policeman and he came up to me and showed me a picture of two children and asked if I had seen them. I hadn't, so I said no, and he went on his way. Next thing I know, I'm headed to church basement where the restrooms are. I go down a staircase, and as I turn left to enter the bathroom, I pause and look behind my shoulder. Standing in the corner are two nuns with their heads together, whispering to each other. I'm a bit perplexed as to why they are standing near the restroom, but I dismiss it and move to enter the bathroom. A figure with a demonic, smiling mask made out of stone leans around the doorway, and before I can react, one of the nuns reaches around me, pulls out a kitchen knife from her robes and cuts the demon's neck. Looking at it bleed out on the floor, I had never seen such hatred from something, and at the same time I felt like it was a part of me. I felt like those nuns saved me from something indescribable. Then I woke up. Later on in my life I had 2 more dreams about demons. Not sure why. I was raised religious, but haven't been since grade school. My father had died, and it was the night of his funeral. I was asleep upstairs, husband and family downstairs. It was about 11 PM. The dream I had was more real and more vivid than anything I have experienced in real life. All I remember is I was being grabbed and pulled by my legs and feet into a burning pit of hell by creatures that were human-like with very long arms, fingers, and legs. They were naked and bald and they had huge, open mouths with massive amounts of razor-sharp teeth. As I was being pulled, I knew I was trying to save my father from being down there. But he was not only down there, but he was also trying to pull me down. It was a huge but narrow space, and it was hot. I started to call my husband's name to get him to help me. I couldn't breathe. It was too hot to inhale air. I woke up, hearing myself try to scream out loud. My legs were hot, red, and had a single fresh scratch on my right leg. I was alone in that room. I was sweating, parched, and my heart was racing.